Ultimize. By now in this series, we've talked about several practical ways to reduce clutter. Throw away things you don't use. Stop buying things you don't need. Remove one item every day. Simplify papers, closets, and even digital spaces. But there's a deeper question behind all of this. If clutter is so obviously inconvenient, if clutter makes our homes harder to manage, if clutter makes it harder to find the things we actually need, why do we keep so much of it? Why is it sometimes difficult to throw things away? The answer has very little to do with the objects themselves. It has to do with psychology. Let's start with one of the most common reasons people keep things: the just in case mindset. You look at an object and think, I might need this someday. This is incredibly common. Old cables, extra containers, spare gadgets, boxes from products, random tools. The brain imagines a future situation where that object might suddenly become useful. And because the possibility exists, even if it's very unlikely, the item stays. But here's something worth remembering: most of the objects we keep just in case never get used. They remain in drawers and closets for years. And if a situation actually arises when you do need something similar, it's usually very easy to obtain again. Stores exist. Online shopping exists. Tools can be borrowed. Items can be replaced. Keeping hundreds of objects for hypothetical future scenarios creates far more inconvenience than simply replacing an occasional item if the need ever arises. Another reason people keep clutter is something psychologists call the sunk cost fallacy. This happens when we feel reluctant to discard something because we spent money on it. You look at an object and think, I paid good money for this, even if I never use it, even if you no longer want it, even if it doesn't serve your life anymore. The memory of the purchase makes it difficult to let go. But here's an important perspective: the money's already gone. Keeping the object does not recover the money. In fact, keeping it may create additional costs: time spent storing it, cleaning around it, organizing it. Sometimes the most productive decision is simply to acknowledge the purchase didn't work out and move forward. Another psychological factor behind clutter is identity. Many objects represent who we thought we might become: books we intended to read, exercise equipment we hoped to use, supplies for hobbies we planned to start, clothes for events we imagined attending. When we look at these objects, we're not just seeing the item, we're seeing a version of ourselves. Letting go of the object can sometimes feel like letting go of that identity. But here's something important to consider: your life is defined by what you actually do, not by the objects you keep. If a hobby truly matters to you, you will pursue it. If a goal truly matters, you will take action toward it. Keeping objects related to hypothetical activities does not bring those activities to life. Sorry. Another common reason for clutter is simply decision fatigue. Every object requires a decision: keep it, move it, organize it, discard it. And when people are busy or tired, they postpone those decisions. The item goes into a drawer, or onto a shelf, or into a box. The decision is delayed, but delayed decisions accumulate. Eventually, the environment fills with objects that are waiting for decisions that never happen. Decluttering reverses that process. It encourages making small decisions quickly. Do I use this? Do I need this? Does this belong in my life today? When you begin answering those questions honestly, the environment gradually becomes simpler. There's another psychological factor worth mentioning: emotional attachment. Some objects carry memories: a gift from a friend, a souvenir from a trip, something that belonged to a family member. These items can feel difficult to remove because they represent meaningful experiences. But there is an important distinction to remember: the memory is not in the object, the memory exists in your mind. Keeping a few meaningful objects is completely reasonable. But keeping large numbers of items simply because they once had significance can slowly fill your environment with things you rarely interact with. One useful approach is to select a few items that truly represent the memory, the most meaningful ones. Then allow the rest to go. This preserves the memory without allowing clutter to accumulate. Another helpful perspective when thinking about possessions is to ask a simple question. Does this object support the life I want today? Not the life you imagined 5 years ago, not the life you might live someday, the life you live today, your current work, your current routines, your current interest, your current environment. Objects that support your life deserve space. Objects that do not support your life are simply occupying space. And space is valuable. Your space is valuable. Clear space allows movement. Clear space allows focus. Clear space allows your environment to feel calm instead of chaotic. Once you start thinking about possessions this way, decluttering becomes easier. Instead of feeling like you're losing something, it begins to feel like you're improving your environment. You're creating a space that supports the way you want to live. You're removing distractions. You're simplifying your surroundings. And that simplicity often leads to something unexpected: greater clarity. When your environment becomes simpler, decisions become easier. Finding things becomes easier. Maintaining order becomes easier. Your space begins working for you instead of against you. In the next episode, we're going to talk about how to keep clutter from returning once you've simplified your environment. Because decluttering once is helpful, but the real goal is maintaining a clutter free life over time. If you're getting any value out of this podcast, go to ultimize.com to receive a free habits building course.